Been together so long we can't pretend. Remember the way we used to move, dance all night like young lovers do. Your heart is changing. Now we don't dance like we used to. Silent disco on the floor, baby. Mr. DJ, he'll get me through. When the beat's gone, you can't save me, baby.
This is Broad Radio. For you, by you. Broad Radio. Here for more.
Hello and welcome to Broad Radio. I'm Jo Stanley and my co-host today is the delightful Bianca Chatfield. Hi, B.
So great to be back. It's been a little while, but I'm excited to be on Broad Radio this morning.
It has been a while. I got so many amazing women that I share this show with. I find it very difficult to fit you all in with just this 1 hour a week that we get to do. I have big goals of making it much more than 1 hour a week. So, you know, don't relax too much, Bianca. We'll be seeing you more.
I do love watching all our other fabulous hosts, though. I do really enjoy it. You always learn so much because we come from all different parts of the world in what we do, and I just love it. It's always a great fun time.
Oh, that is so true, B. But we cannot say another word without you making your beautiful announcement. You've got big news.
I do, and we posted this on Instagram last night. So my partner Mark and I are having a little baby. Oh. So I am 17 weeks at the moment, which is, it's all been going pretty well so far. But yes, very overwhelming making it all public last night. I mean, so much love, which is awesome. But yes, it was very just like, whoa, it's really happening now.
It's super exciting though, B, and you've got to let us just enjoy someone's good news. There's not a lot of it out there. So I guess that people just jumped on board and went, yay, oh, that's so great.
And I know, and I think because I've always just been super independent and I love kids and I love hanging out with other people's kids, but I've probably never really been in a position where I thought, oh, I'm actually going to have kids myself until probably the last couple of years when Mark and I met, and it's just been a natural thing for us, and we're just super excited for what 2022 is going to bring.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're very, very happy. It's the first Broad Radio baby. Oh. I'm so excited.
With lots of experienced mamas to help me out once I get there.
True. It is true. Well, we have a gorgeous show ahead for you. ABC TV breakfast host Lisa Millar is going to be joining us. She has a memoir released, I believe, today or maybe tomorrow, and it's all basically the behind the scenes of life as a foreign correspondent. Absolutely fascinating. So Lisa's joining us first up, and also we're going to be learning about innovative housing solutions for women from an amazing organisation called Sharing with Friends, and Ambassador for Gene House for Women's Health, Tina McCarthy, who has an amazing organisation called Wheel Women Australia, is going to be joining us to get us moving and on the bike. That's all coming up after this. Broad Radio is proudly supported by Chemist Warehouse. Chemist Warehouse, great savings every day. So a little bit of housekeeping up the top. Please follow, like, subscribe, whatever you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook. We'd love it if you joined our community. That's super helpful for us as we are growing and developing. And if you're watching, we'd love it if you commented and shared your thoughts along the way. That's really a massive part of our day and our show. We really love it. Oh, look, there's already congratulations coming in on Facebook there for you, B. Lillian says, great to see you back, Bianca, and congratulations. We've got huge congratulations coming through there. People are so happy for you, Bianca. It's lovely.
Oh, thank you. I don't even have a belly to show for it yet.
That'll come. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Also, if you want to catch up on any of our episodes, you can do that via our podcast, Broad Radio on the Go, wherever you get your podcasts. And we do love it when you join us via our More to Say survey. It's one question every week. It's a way that we kind of engage with our audience and understand what you're feeling and thinking about the world. Now, next week is Women's Health Week, and we are so excited to be partnering with Jean Hales for Women's Health. We're doing a pop-up show Monday to Friday, 1 p.m. every day. And as a part of that, our question this week for our More to Say poll is this: which element of your health worries you most? So these are actually the themes that we're doing for the pop-up show: fitness and physical health, tricky periods, sexual health, mental health, and sleep. Which actually is the thing that worries you most. If you enter that particular survey, then you go in the running for winning this beautiful Love Your Hands pack from Saber Organics, one of the world's only certified organic products, skincare products. Now, Bianca, you're going to be joining us next week for our pop-up show for Jean Hales. You're going to be doing Thursday's show, I believe, which is all about mental health, something you're super passionate about.
Yes, I can't wait to explore it a little more, to learn some more. But I just think it's just as important as our physical fitness, our mental fitness needs to be a priority, especially in this crazy, crazy world that we're living in right now, that just even the little tips and tricks that people can do just to help them get through a day in a more positive frame of mind, I think is really important. So I can't wait to learn some more about it, Jo.
Yeah, it's going to be super exciting to do that next week. And we thank Jean Hales for Women's Health for coming on board as a partner of Broad Radio. We're growing because of the partnerships that we have, and it's really critical to us. A couple of news headlines. It is Equal Pay Day today. Do you know what that means, Bea?
Well, I'm hoping it means that from now on, everyone gets equally paid. Is that right?
Wouldn't that be nice? No, it's a really important initiative. Essentially, the incredibly intelligent people at the at WGEA, which is the Work Gender Equality Agency in Australia, they do this calculation that basically allows us to work out how many extra days women have to work past the end of the previous financial year to be paid equally to men. And it's 61 days this year. So it's not a great thing to celebrate. It's a way of actually highlighting the fact that women across every industry in Australia are paid less than men. And it's going to take 26 years for there to be equal pay if we're going at this current rate.
That is unbelievable. But you're right. How important is it, the awareness around that too? Because yes, we talk about equal pay, but we probably don't realise, I don't think, how far behind we are in some industries. And to actually see that, it's 61 days extra. It's just unbelievable that still exists in today's age. But far out, we'll all fight the fight as much as we can to make sure that we can get there in quicker than 26 years.
Exactly right. I mean, it is very much about awareness and demanding. What they're saying is, we suggest, and the theme this year is, what's your pay gap? So they suggest that you go to your organisation and you say, can we do a gender gap, a pay gap audit, so that you actually investigate how are people being paid and making sure that it is equal. Because somehow systems don't kind of protect that. It should be something that is actually ticked off every time someone is employed, really. But that's...
What an important question to ask. I mean, I don't think I've ever thought about going to an organisation and asking that question that I was working in, but how important that we actually do ask that question.
Absolutely. I certainly have never done that. And I've always been too scared to ask, am I being paid the same? But it's your right. It's your right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Other news headlines, Bianca, we've come out of the Super Netball Grand Final on Saturday. Congratulations to the New South Wales Swifts for taking that home. What an exciting game that was.
Yeah, it was an exciting game. And New South Wales Swifts have been the most consistent performing team all year. And I know you'll be pleased to know, Jo, they also work with Emma Murray, who is the performance mindfulness coach. She works with all the athletes, and even though that was not a public thing during the season, for those who know Emma Murray, you would have heard her before. You could tell by the way they talk together, and in the commentary, I get to have ears listening in on everything that they're saying in their huddles, and they would always take a deep breath before they'd step out there on court. And it was just this moment where I was like, hang on a minute, this isn't the rah, rah, rah you usually hear from like netball teams or footy teams, and they're all getting each other up and about. They were actually taking this deep breath. They were talking about how momentum doesn't exist in a game. And I was looking around the crowds and I spotted Emma in the crowd. I was like, there we go. This is exactly the influence that she has on teams. And but yes, they played really well. It was quite serendipitous in a way to have two New South Wales teams in the grand final. That hasn't happened before recently anyway. And to get a huge win for them by 4 goals. It was just a great way to end a season that we never thought we'd actually get to the end of it with what's been happening. So Netball have done a great job just to get to the end of that season, and now the New South Wales girls, both teams can finally, I don't actually know if they will make their way home yet from Queensland or if they'll stay in Queensland, but it's been a great season and great to get to the end.
Yeah, I love seeing the crowds and how excited people are, and following it on social media and seeing that there's a real groundswell of support for the sport now. They're doing such a great job, Super Netball, I think, in really growing the sport. And I loved this particular tweet from Erin Delahunty, who is a sports journo, just really celebrating netball for what it is. It's a sport built by women for women. And of course, men are welcome, but this game is like no other on the planet because there's no inbuilt glass ceiling. And it really got me thinking about how important netball is. I am not someone who's ever played a sport, Bianca. It might shock you to know that I don't feel comfortable on a court, and certainly balls terrify me. They always seem to hit me in the head, right? So I'm the opposite to you. I am not a naturally sporty person, but the first ball I ever picked up was a netball, and if I ever have played in a team, it's a netball team, and I think that that's given me experiences that no other sport would have given. I've got a real gratitude for it in a lot of ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And I mean, for me, it's given me so much more than just being an athlete, like just being surrounded by strong females who have shown me how to do it, shown me I can do anything, and really instilled this belief in me, because we've had this incredible amount of people around us, and the majority are female, that just have your back along the way and will always keep pushing you forward, and will always make sure like the next generation changes the game and the way the sport is more so than what, the people have done beforehand. And that was always our motto with the Australian netball team, is that you've got to leave a legacy and that you leave the dress in a better place than when you found it. And it sounds a bit corny, but that means so much more than actually about playing the game. It's about how we can actually move the sport forward. Even the equal pay comes up in netball as well. Trying to make sure that netball gets recognised and the girls get rewarded for the amount of effort they're putting in. They are professional athletes. But yeah, I do love it that netball does support the male game, probably not as much as what it does for the female game, but at the moment there's only so much money going around. But it's just an incredible place to grow, not just at the elite level, as you know, at community level as well. It's a place we all feel connected, and at the moment without community sport, that's probably what everyone's finding the toughest, is that you don't have that connection with each other on a weekend where you can just go and chat and be around people, and sport is just almost like the vehicle that brings you together, not necessarily why you're all there. You just love being around people.
Yeah, that's true. But, you think about netball, so I was always the person that was brought in when no one else could fill a spot in a team, right? Like they'd lost half of their team because they've got, they're sick or they're away or whatever. And I'm like, I'll get Joe in. And I always played wing defence because that's the position you give the player. The person who can't play always seems to play wing defence, right? That's okay, I'll cop it. But, I played at university. There's been mixed netball, and now I was reading about how there's walking netball. So it's kind of a sport that you can take through your life and all your different stages, and it kind of stays with you because of that community, which I just think is super special.
Yes, you're right. And look, poor wing defences, they really do cop it, probably at the lower levels, but at the top level, as a defender, my wing defence was the most important player on the court for me, because they would do all the hard work that allowed me to get the glory at the back. So any wing defences out there, don't ever underestimate how important you are to the game.
Oh, mate, I was fully aware. I was aware if the ball got to our defence, like our goal defence, which was you, right?
Yeah.
I would feel like I had failed in the middle there because how did it get down to her? That's not where it's supposed to be. Anyway, look, I'm not scarred. I've been inspired by it, but I want to say thank you to all of the netballers out there and to Super Netball for growing the sport because I think it's really important. And yeah, maybe one day we'll see it at the Olympics. That's a whole other conversation. We have to move on because in just a moment we're going to be joined by ABC TV breakfast host Lisa Millar. That's after this. You know, Bianca, I reckon when people host breakfast TV shows, the audience don't always know the full history of the hosts that they love so much on that show. And our next guest brings with her an extraordinary level of experience as a foreign correspondent. Her resume is unbelievable as a journalist, and she is much loved host of ABC TV Breakfast in Melbourne. And she's brought out now a memoir. I believe it launches tomorrow, and it's a fantastic read. She joins us now. Hi there, Lisa Millar.
Oh, good morning, ladies. Thank you very much.
Congratulations on the book. It must feel kind of exciting and a bit nerve-wracking to have it out there.
Oh, totally nerve-wracking. And it's a bit weird putting it out there in the middle of lockdown. Not that I want to talk about the C word at all, but not having sort of friends and family around. I mean, who is going to drink the rest of my bottle of champagne? I'm going to have to drink the whole thing. Like, there are challenges here with putting out a book in lockdown. No, but seriously, I do feel anxious.
I was going to say, Lisa, also a huge bonus because it allows people the time, probably we've got a bit more time on our hands that we've had, to actually read it and get stuck into your story. Because as Joe said, we don't often get to know the person that we see on camera as much as when you're interviewing someone. So it's great, great for us to get to know you a little bit better by reading this.
Oh, well, thank you very much. I hope that you did feel that way and you feel like you know me a bit more after reading it.
You know, so Lisa, it's kind of a behind the scenes in a lot of ways of some of the biggest news events and moments in history, really, from whether it's terrorist attacks or natural disasters or, you know, really heartbreaking moments on the world stage. You were there reporting these moments. When you're there, are you aware that history is happening? Are you sort of cognizant of the magnitude of it?
It's a really good question. Sometimes you are, other times you are just trying to meet the next deadline and you're pumping out TV news script and radio news stories and something for the AM or PM program or 7:30. You don't have time to think about it. But I can remember really clearly one moment. It was just after the Brexit vote in the UK and David Cameron came out of number 10 Downing Street to resign because it had been such an unmitigated failure on his behalf to have led the country towards this referendum that he didn't want to have passed. And I had a young producer who'd just started from Hobart. So she'd arrived in London on one of those under 30 visas and was having a sort of a whale of a time. She was an awesome journalist. But I remember saying to her, because she was busy talking to everyone lining up the next live cross, and I said, just stop for a moment and look at this. As David Cameron walked out, I said, we are watching history happen. And we both paused for a moment, and I'm so glad we did, because the trouble with this job is that you do often rush through it all, and it's not until afterwards that you get the momentous sense of it. Another occasion was when we managed to interview Fidel Castro, the former Cuban president, in Havana. We'd chased him around the city for a week. He doesn't make a habit of doing interviews with Western media. And we finally caught up with him. We threw a few questions through our translator in Spanish. And when I walked away, I said, that was Fidel Castro. Like, it was just this incredible moment where you think, if you had told me when I was 10 years old that I was going to be interviewing Fidel Castro one day through a translator, I should hasten to add, then I wouldn't have believed you. So, look, I regret that I haven't taken those moments, but Joe and Bianca, I guess that was the point of having this year where I was not able to go anywhere. I was in lockdown Melbourne for most of the time, and it made me sit back for the first time and really think about so many of the things that I'd witnessed as a child through the years and what kind of impact it had in making me who I am today.
I want to talk to you, Lisa, about the impact, because you get to witness all these incredible, sometimes devastating stories. And reading your book, you even talk about the amount of times that you are up all night and that you're living in the Australian, time zone because you've got to report back as the foreign correspondent, but you are up all hours and you never know when you're going to get a phone call. So what actual toll does it take on you personally, having lived that life?
Look, I think physically it takes a toll because you are constantly on high alert. So you never let your body relax. There was one year in particular where if the phone rang at any point in the night, it would only have to make the tiniest bit of noise and I would be awake and I would say, "What's happened?" Because I knew that something would have happened. It was the only reason the phone was ringing, and it was always something bad, and it generally involved me rushing to the airport and jumping on a plane to cover a terrorist attack or an earthquake or a kidnapping from Libya. I mean, it just, you name it, there were so many different stories. So physically, just having that kind of stress level, the cortisol rushing through your body all the time made you hyper alert. Personally, well, speak to my ex-husband and my ex-boyfriend. They can probably tell you. I mean, that's the reality of it. It is very hard on the people around you. And, it can be tough. It can be tough.
And emotionally, there must be a toll when you are witnessing such extraordinary trauma around you.
Yeah, there was one time when I was coming back from an earthquake in Italy, and this was a time where you were using baby wipes to sort of get yourself clean for the week that you are there. It's everything in an earthquake just turns to like a brown dust, even though Italy has the most amazing colours in its villages and religious emblems. Everything was just a brown dust. And I'd left London a week earlier. My partner had got up with me at 4 a.m. when the phone rang. He'd said, "Oh, there's only 12 dead. I'm going back to bed. I'll see you later for dinner." And I rang him from Heathrow Airport and said, "No, there's hundreds dead. I'll see you when I see you." And when I was returning home to London after that assignment, I knew that my partner wasn't going to be there in London because he'd got sick of waiting for me and had gone somewhere else. And I looked at everyone on the plane and I thought, there were more people dead in the village I just reported on than there are in this plane. And it just made me start crying. I am all for crying. I think crying is a great stress reliever, and I am not ashamed or embarrassed about tears, but I can definitely remember that moment of being on that plane and just the enormity of how many people had died hitting me.
And even, I imagine, the people that you've spoken to and interviewed, so many victims and victims' families as well. And no doubt, I mean, I know I'm often frightened by grief, and when you're trying to have those conversations and how do you have them and how do you, make them as empathetic as they can be, what kind of impact has that had on you too, having to be in those moments that are so intense and there's so much surrounding it of emotion? How do you handle that as a journalist?
Oh, look, I've learnt a lot over the years, thanks to the trauma training that a lot of us now get about how to deal with these kinds of stories. I used to wonder whether it was easier for me in Europe because the grief was often in a foreign language, and just by putting that another layer between me not being able to understand the words, even though I could tell people were so upset, I'd be working with a translator, and I think that may have protected me a little bit more, like thinking selfishly, which I don't want to do. In America, when I was there, and in particular covering the Sandy Hook school shooting when 20 children were killed, that it's so hard not to feel the weight of that horror. And I think it's made me definitely a more empathetic person. I've always worked on the rule that it's one thing to be able to get in a door, to get someone to talk to you, to convince them to do the interview, but it's very telling about how you've treated them in that interview and afterwards, whether they'll ever ask you back into their home. And I take that as a bit of pride that people who I have had to interview at some of the lowest moments in their life have been happy for me to go back 4 years later, 6 years later, on anniversaries, and talk to me again. So, and I think that is something I have learned over the years, because I sure as heck, when I was a young police reporter in my early 20s working for a tabloid newspaper, did not have any of those skills about making sure that I wasn't leaving more damage on people.
I think too, though, as a journalist, there's great, I would imagine, I've sort of felt this over the years, even in my version of radio, there's great privilege in being able to tell someone's story. And do you learn from these incredible, courageous people who have experienced unimaginable pain?
Absolutely. And I'm in awe of their resilience. The mother of one of the children who died in Sandy Hook, Veronique Posner, she's incredible. She had just lost her 5-year-old son. She had another daughter, his twin, who survived the shooting at the school. And then Veronique campaigned to try and change the gun laws in America. I think learning from them, and also feeling like what you are doing is worthy and that you are somehow improving things by doing what some people would see as intruding on people's grief. But if you come away with it, learning, and that's not why I go into it, I think that's the benefit. It's more that to show others how incredible people can be, and also to give them some strength and hopefully some airtime to be able to say the things that they want to say. And in Veronique's case, it was about the gun laws in America.
And Lisa, this is your book here. We are very privileged to already have a copy of it, and it's called Daring to Fly, but very early on you talk about a fear of flying. And, there's a lot of, when you discuss just the courage that you've had throughout to make the decisions that you've made, to go on the journey that you've gone on. Are you one that always, has a fear and think, I've got to get to it. I've got to really be able to break that down? Are you someone that always loves tackling the fears?
Well, I do now that I was able to get over the fear of flying. And whenever I've spoken about it, people have been so interested. And it's one of the reasons that I also wanted to write the book, to try and give people the impetus to think that they too could get over whatever fear might be ailing them. Because I desperately wanted to be a foreign correspondent, but I was involved in a mid-air incident when I was a young reporter, and that led to a decade-long fear that was totally debilitating. If you'd said to me, get on a flight from Brisbane to Sydney in 3 days' time, well, I would start having diarrhea at the thought of that. I would be so angry, I'd be snappy. I mean, my fear was off the charts. So how do you take that and turn that person into a foreign correspondent who jumps on planes at a moment's notice? It was actually my husband at the time who eventually said to me, this cannot go on. He had reached the limit of his patience with my fear ruling our lives. And I did a fear of flying course. The best thing they said to me was, you've spent ages building this fear up into this massive monster, and it's going to take work and it's going to take time for you to get rid of that fear. And I reckon it took about 2 years from the time I did the course to get to a point where I looked up at the sky and I'd see planes and think, oh, I can't wait to be on that plane. Whereas before I would just want to vomit, and thank God I was not on that plane. And because I got over that fear of flying, it then gives you this incredible empowerment and sense that you can do anything. Like if I could get over something that absolutely was just destroying my life and my hopes and ambitions and my relationship. So that's why I did the triathlon when I couldn't swim.
Funny, impressive.
Do crazy stuff.
You're fearless now. Nothing holds you back.
That's a bit of the feeling you get when you break through a fear. No, I wouldn't say I'm fearless. I definitely have fears. I have fears about jumping in the water in Port Phillip Bay and swimming, but I know the feeling that you get when you get through a fear, and that feeling is so awesome that it now gives me the drive to break through whatever is stopping me doing something.
I found that really inspirational, Lisa, because we're in a really fearful time. Like, I feel like people are frightened a lot, which then makes them behave in a way where they're perhaps angry, or perhaps they're defensive, or they attack, or, you know, it's a pretty unpleasant time a lot because of fear, I reckon. And I was inspired by the notion that you can actually face your fear head on and go, no, I'm choosing not to play into that right now.
Yeah, it took me a while. I was a Rain Man of plane crashes, don't you worry. I mean, I had a producer in Washington, even after I'd moved there, after I'd got my dream job, I was still a little uncertain. And she had a list of planes that she was able to book me on, and we called it the Safe for Lisa flight list. Because there were some budget airlines that, no, I know they've just changed their name because they plowed a jet into the Florida Everglades. And she was like, I'm learning so much. I'm like, stick with me. I can tell you everything about every bolt that's fallen off every jet anywhere in the world. That's how I was.
How are you finding being grounded in Melbourne now that you've got this love of flying again, or wanting to fly around, and you've done this amazing career of actually probably living out of a suitcase for so long? Now that you're hosting ABC News Breakfast, do you find it a bit confronting that now that you're grounded in Melbourne and you can't fly around?
Look, if I could get to Queensland, where all my family are, I'd be happier. But as far as having this job and not having the stress of being woken in the middle of the night to go somewhere and try and find visas and money in a foreign country, and I'm happy not to have that. It was great while I had it, but it does take a toll. But look, I think my passport's still valid. I'll be really keen to go overseas at some point. But you know what? This is the most stable job I've ever had. I mean, I know the alarm is going to go off at 3 a.m., but I know exactly what I'm doing between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. And I know that I'm going to be going to sleep in my own bed at night. Yeah. And you never know that on any given day as a foreign correspondent. And there's something about that is reassuring.
And also
no wet wipes. For sure.
No wet wipes.
No, but can I tell you something? I'm talking to you after having come home from the studio, and I walked into the bathroom and there are 6 open packets of contact lenses. And I thought, what was that about? And I remembered at 3 o'clock this morning, I put in one set of contact lenses, and then later, like 10 minutes later, put in another set, and then thought, oh my God, I'm going blind. I can't see anything. And then I'm scratching the contact lenses out, have destroyed 4 contact lenses, and then eventually put in another pair. So it took me 6 contact lenses to deliver ABC News Breakfast this morning.
Wow. Such is your commitment to that show, and an audience who absolutely love you, Lisa. It must be really lovely to have that connection and conversation with your audience every day.
It's lovely. It is lovely. I love it when people stop me on the street. I love it when people write in and tell me things about their kids and dogs and family and partners. It makes us, all of us on the team, we get on so well. We're such a wonderful Brekkie family, and it makes us feel great that people feel that they want us in their homes or on their phones if they're commuting in the morning as well, because it's a very intimate space to have these people sort of chatting to you, and as they're sitting at their table with their muesli and all the rest of it. I love that they want us there.
Yeah, well, it is. It's lovely to see there, and the book is awesome. Do head out and grab yourself a copy, Daring to Fly. It's really inspirational and such fascinating reading as well. If you're interested in the history of like all the biggest events, basically, that we've seen on our front pages. Lisa Millar, thank you so much for joining us on Broad Radio. It was so lovely to have you.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you, Bianca. It's been great.
And we'll have more Broad Radio after this. at Broad Radio, we are growing because of the incredible partners that have come on board to support us and work with us. And one such organisation is Saber Organics. We love working with them because they help us care for each other, for ourselves and the planet. And they are one of the world's only 100% certified organic range of skin and body care. So obviously, whether it's hand wash or hand sanitizer or cleaning products for our home, none of us want to be covering our skin in toxins or chemicals. And the fact is, it's hard to know exactly what goes into our products because a lot of the time when things are described as natural ingredients, they have still been exposed to toxic herbicides and pesticides in farming, which is damaging to the earth and also our body. Not great for that. So certified organic means when it's 100% certified organic, as Saber Organics is, it guarantees no aluminium, no sulfate, no parabens and no toxic chemicals. So of course we love that option and we're grateful to Saber Organics for providing it to us. I love lemon tea tree and kunzia hand wash from Saber Organics, but you can check out their whole range at saberorganics.com.
My workout routine comes with me wherever I go, and so does Bondi Protein. It gives me the post-workout nutrients I need. Fuel your body with Australian-made Bondi Protein.
Broad Radio, talking inspo we love, info we need, and sharing more of us. Watch and listen live every Tuesday 9 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time at broadradio.com.au or find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube and LinkedIn at Broad Radio Oz. Talk to us live. Call on 1300 8 Broad. Catch up on demand anytime, anywhere, every time, everywhere. On the train, we'll be here. 2 a.m. existential crisis, we've got you covered. Broad Radio, here for more.
Oh, Bianca, what a delight Lisa Millar is.
It's unbelievable, isn't it, to hear about her fear of flying? And when I read that in the book and to hear how she overcame it. And then, I mean, obviously now she's a bit of a junkie in trying to counteract some of those fears. But, I love hearing about people's lives. I know you're the same. It's just you learn so much from what other people have been through.
And a beautiful perspective from Kristen on our Facebook, who says she can't wait to read the book, Lisa. Thanks for your openness and your calm balance and perspective. Today and always, you calm our family and household every morning on the ABC. Isn't that nice? To know that you've been
and she
here.
Does have a beautiful, calming voice, doesn't she?
Yes, absolutely. Well, okay, so on to our next amazing guest. We are super excited, as I said, to be partnering with Jean House for Women's Health for Women's Health Week next week. And so we welcome Ambassador for Women's Health Week. She is the founder of Wheel Women Australia. Her name's Tina McCarthy. Hi there, Tina.
Good morning. How are you?
So you created Wheel Women Australia, which is about ladies getting on bikes. Tell us more about exactly what Wheel Women Australia is about.
Yeah, so I guess I got into cycling probably 10, 11 years ago now. And in the process of doing that, I realised that there were all these things that I just didn't know. And of course, everybody says, oh, it's just like riding a bike. But I quickly realised that actually this was not like riding when I was a kid. This was, completely different. How did I ride on the road, and what was I meant to, what are people doing, sticking their hands out, doing all these signals, and what if I have a flat tire? What am I going to do? So in the process of all of that, I realized that actually other women probably really want to know about this too. So that's how Wheel Women was born, really.
And I read that when you first got into it, you got addicted, like I have as well. As soon as I started, I thought, I feel really good. And then I got all the gear, and then I got all the cool, like a cool bike. And then I went through a bit of a phase where then I stopped riding, and I then forgot about how good it actually makes me feel. And you had a similar experience, didn't you?
Yeah, look, every time I get on the bike now, I have that moment of feeling like a kid again. And it's truly that feeling of when you're, it takes you back to when you were like 7 years old, racing around the neighborhood, chasing your brothers. But yeah, when I get back on the bike, or when I got back on the bike years ago, totally took me back to those feelings of freedom and being in control of what I was doing for that very moment, and the power that brings you. It's really, it's only a bike, but it just has so much power.
Oh, well, even as a child, it represents freedom, right? It's the first time you've got independence from your family and you could just get out and ride the neighbourhood. And I remember going, this is the greatest thing ever, because my mum doesn't know where I am and I'm doing my own thing, right? Like, it was just the greatest. But as an adult, I am scared. And I love hearing from you, Tina, that actually that was your experience and that's normal, because I don't want to ride on the road. I am scared of the cars. I don't actually know what to do if I get a flat tire. I think it's awesome that you acknowledge that that is part of the experience of getting on a bike as an adult.
Yeah, and I think that I suppose when women look at the media that there is about women cycling, and they see the images that they see of, slim young things on their bikes riding perfectly and knowing everything there is to know about cycling, I guess it flies in the face of what the reality is that I see about cycling, which is a lot of women out there feeling pretty nervous and not sure about what they're meant to be doing, not sure about what kind of bike they should be riding, feeling very self-conscious about the gear that they wear. And, it's really normal to feel all of those things, and it's really normal to think, oh my God, there's a hill coming up, I'm going to have to get off and walk. So what? There's nobody at the top of the hill holding up a medal for you. So, it's really normal to feel all of those things and say, I can't do this bit. So fine, no problem. Get off and walk. That's okay.
And importantly, is there coffee stops along the way?
Absolutely. We always say if there's no cake and coffee, there's no ride. So.
But so tell me, how exactly do you coach women? So you're, I suppose, hoping that women who've never got on a bike before might join your rides. How do you then teach us?
So we get women who, particularly a lot of older women or women from, migrant families who have never had the opportunity to ride, have never even been on a bike. But of course, at the moment, lots of them are wanting to ride. So that process is really about just putting them on a bike, and we usually have one or two coaches with them, and we hold them just like you would hold your kid when they're learning to ride, and we teach them all about scooting along like, kids on their little scooter bikes. And it's a process of just building their confidence and building their skills and balance to get them going. And before long, we haven't failed yet. We've got 100% success rate in getting women to learn to ride from scratch. But when it comes to the women who are getting back on their bikes, that's really just about, a bit of hand-holding in a way. And making it fun. We always say this is not about exercise at all. This is really just about going out and just meeting some other women who want that same sense of adventure and sense of madness about, oh my God, I'm getting on a bike and, doing all these weird things. And it's kind of like the exercise is incidental to what we're doing. We're just going out and having fun, really. So that's kind of the premise behind We're Women, is whatever we do, it's got to be fun and it's got to be social, and always cake and coffee.
And we saw your website scrolling across the screen. So for anyone out there who's watching thinking, you know what, maybe I could become a part of this too, what's their first kind of point of call? Jump on the website and they can get in contact there?
Yeah, so they can jump on the website, or they could contact us via Facebook. And I guess one thing I'd say about looking at that website too is don't be put off by the fact that there's Lycra and road bikes. We don't care what you wear, whether it's a T-shirt and daggy tracksuit. And if your bike is a sit-up vintage cruiser, no problem. Or if it's the old one that's rusty and got cobwebs on it from the shed, that's no problem either. Any bike is fine. Any gear is fine. We're there to help.
I love it. Adventure and madness. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm putting that on a T-shirt. That's exactly what I want out of life and out of my exercise. Now, you've come to us via Jean Hales for Women's Health, Tina. I know you're an ambassador for this amazing organisation. We're super excited about partnering with them. Can you just give us one tiny little snapshot as to why you're working with them and what they've been for you?
Look, Jean Hales does amazing work for bringing a whole lot of topics about women's health to the fore, things that perhaps are not always in the media. So the taboo subjects that sometimes men don't like hearing about, I guess, but women love talking about, and we all know about it. So I think it's really great that they kind of normalize a lot of those things that we all want to talk about, we all need to know about, we all want to learn more about. So that's why I love being with them, and their focus on active lifestyles is being a part of all of that is really what I love about it.
Yeah, that's so true. Taboo subjects. There'll be a lot of that next week when we do our pop-up show for Women's Health Week next week. There is an episode about sex at any age. And this is the amazing thing, Tina. We're like you. We're completely independent and we can talk about anything we want. We don't answer to anybody. It's super exciting. We love it. So do check out wheelwomenaustralia.com if you are interested in getting on the bike. I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for all the amazing work you do, Tina. McCarthy.
Thank you.
We'll have more Broad
Tina.
Radio after this.
I'm in a new stratosphere.
So, Bianca, on this Equal Pay Day, I think it's important to acknowledge that one of the consequences of women not earning as much as men over their careers and their working lifetime is actually increased poverty. And one of the consequences of that, when it comes to not enough super, when it comes to being out of the workforce for perhaps more time than men have, is actually insecure housing. It's a really sad thing that women over 55 are the fastest growing group of people facing homelessness in Australia, and the housing crisis is just increasing because social housing is just not going to be adequate enough. It's currently not adequate enough, but moving forward into the decades, it's just going to be an increasing problem. So we are really passionate about systems and structures and organisations that come up with innovative solutions for the housing crisis, particularly for women. And so we're really thrilled to head now to far north Queensland to Susan Davies, who is the president of Sharing with Friends. I love the sound of it. I love the idea. And she joins us now. Hi there, Susan.
Hi, Lee. Lovely to be here, especially under the palm trees. It's a bit of a break for me, and I'm just so pleased to be able to still make contact with you and do this interview. So it's just wonderful.
We're thrilled to have you. I'm going to ask you to just shift a little touch to your left so that we can see the full part of your... There you go. Wow. Look at you. You look glorious. Thank you. So now tell me, what led you to establish Sharing with Friends?
Yeah. Well, I suppose I've been a member of the Zonta Club. I'm sure you know about Zonta, an international organisation that looks after the empowerment of women and girls, which is 100 years old now. And I'm from Brisbane. I suppose we always have been a bit conscious of systemic problems, as you said, about that really affect women disproportionately. And for some years now, my Zonta friends and I have been conscious of the systemic things like the lack of superannuation, the low-paid jobs, the time out of the workforce, all those things that compromise women's financial effectiveness and independence. Then you add on domestic violence issues, things like that, and all of a sudden, women who are just about to leave the workforce are really, really compromised as to their options for housing. So we started to investigate this, and just before the big C hit everybody, and it was, in a way, it was sort of fortuitous, really, because it gave us a lot of thinking time, and so many people were accessible still through Teams and all sorts of other media, and so we haven't really we haven't travelled very much to find other examples, but we were able to develop a model that may assist a certain number. We can't solve the whole problem of housing for older women, but we have come up with a niche product that may well help a lot of people who have just a very small amount of money, maybe at the time of retirement, so that they can just access their super, and that's when we would offer them a sharing with friends unit.
And I wanted to ask you, Susan, about, we're not talking about an aged care facility. That's probably what a lot of people have in their heads when we talk about it. Can you explain exactly what it means? Because when I read about Share with Friends, I thought, what a cool environment to be able to be in.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I can see that you're not going to be eligible for quite some time. But it's amazing how my friends and I all say, that's exactly what we want to do when we retire. And they tend to be the ones who are single, renting, and about to retire. So that's, I've forgotten your question. What
I was saying, can you explain to us what it looks like, what the model that you've created looks like, with all the individual little apartments that will be a part of it?
Well, we've got a wonderful design, which it's called co-housing, and it's 5 units. They can be co-joined, or they can just be a run of 3 and a run of 2 around a lovely central courtyard. So that's a lovely picture that you're showing there, and you can see how attractive that looks. So the run of 3 on the left of the screen, and the run of 4 on the other side, run of 2. And then at the top is the shared facilities. So it's like a 6th unit, and that's perhaps a shared laundry, shared living space, gathering space, social, home theatre, or that sort of thing, where you can have guests, and then this lovely central courtyard. So we had a wonderful architect, Eloise Atkinson from Darky Richards, and she has pro bono designed this for us. And we thought initially, our plans have sort of evolved over the last 2 years. We thought initially that we could do the construction cost and the cost of the land for about $120,000 per person, which is, as we've discovered, the average amount that a woman retiring today in Australia has in her super. That's $120,000. It's not a lot of money if you're talking about the housing market. But as we have become a little sadder and wiser, we've found that only the construction cost per person is going to be covered by the $120,000. That's still our buy-in price, but we've had to pivot a little, as they say now, and we have decided to source the land elsewhere, and from a philanthropic source. So there's a number of those. Because of the network, because of the fact that people really understand that this is a crisis in Australia, and that everyone seems to know someone who has a problem at retirement where they're going to live, an older woman. So we've decided, we have been very pleased with the number of developers, individual philanthropists and others who have said, yes, we can give you a block of land.
Wow.
So that's been very encouraging. And last week, very exciting week it was, we got our special tax deduction status, so that anyone generous enough to give us a block of land will be able to use it as a tax deduction as well. So thank you, Charities Commission, for doing that for us.
Well, congratulations on that. I imagine that is a very critical step. These are the things I love about what your model is, Susan. Firstly, it is allowing women to live together, but they get their own spaces where it counts. Because I have got friends and family who are single women, single mothers, and they have struggled with housing themselves, and certainly even look to their retirement and really fearful of what's going to happen for them. Yeah. And I've sort of said, oh, well, you know, we could live together, but they don't want to share a kitchen with me. Fair enough. Not many people do, right? But, you know, women want their own spaces, but they also want to be able to share spaces. And this is the best of both worlds. I love that idea.
It is, yeah. Yes, we had some very wonderful colleagues, male colleagues, who were also assisting us, and they were, you know, really trying to get the cost down. And they said, oh, well, we can have the shared kitchen. And we, all of us said, no way, no go, can't go forward with the shared kitchen.
No, absolutely not.
So we don't have a shared kitchen, everyone. There is a sort of a communal kitchen as well in the sixth unit, so for parties and that, you know, that sort of thing. But no, if you don't want to share, you don't have to.
And when are you hoping to have the first facility built?
Well, I am still optimistic about being sort of shovel ready I've learnt that lovely phrase, shovel ready by the end of the year. It might be a little longer than that, but we think we'll have our land, we'll have our secret ingredient has been the workshops. And I've been, again, very fortunate with two wonderful colleagues, Adrian Irvine and Landsberg, who have had a background in running workshops. We have a series of 10 workshops within 10 weeks of workshops, one a week for 10 weeks. And that is the secret ingredient of this co-housing, because you have to know what you're getting into. You have to know what you want to share, what you will have to cooperate and collaborate on. And then people are going to sign up for that. And we thought that perhaps groups of 5 will come to us sort of in ready-made groups of friends. But as it's turned out, they have attended workshops as individuals, maybe in twos, and the workshops have also been vital in forming the groups of 5. We are not doing that. We are not putting groups of people together. They must form their own groups and be happy. Yes, I can live with that person. We share similar values or ways of living or interests or something like that. So we have our first group of 5 and others in the wings, but we have our first absolutely solid group of 5. We have now our tax deductible status, and we think that with our land now, when I get back from my holiday in far north Queensland, we will be talking about that block of land to the various generous donor waiting in the wings. And then it's just a matter of getting the tick from the local authority, because co-housing, again, is another issue that is not so common in Australia. And we have to persuade local authorities that this is a good thing, and they need to give us as of right planning to just start these wonderful little communities within communities, so that older women don't have to move out to the boonies to be able to afford to retire. So that's the plan.
So is this optimistic for me to say that you are limited only by the amount of land that you're able to acquire? And once you are actually, as soon as you have a block of land, you're able to then, proceed with that?
Yes, subject to where the land is, but yes, pretty much that's true.
And is this only Brisbane currently, or are you hoping to move into other cities?
We want to do it, because we have access. This is not a Zonta project, but it is very much according to the ideals of Zonta, and Zonta is all over Queensland and Australia. So we're hoping to tap into the Zonta network, but we want to create a model that is replicatable everywhere. And so very happy to share all our intellectual property with groups anywhere and really give them the benefit of the learning curve and the exercise that we've been through in the last couple of years, because we think this is a niche solution. It will take the people who have too many assets to apply or to qualify for social housing, but not enough assets to be able to buy their own place or into a retirement village. So it's this missing middle, they call it, and that's what our niche solution is for sharing with friends. So it's not for everybody. There will still be people who will have to, and social housing, not to decry social housing. We have been working with the Housing for Older Women movement in Queensland under the auspices of Q Shelter, a peak body. And we have been having some wonderful discussions with the Housing Department in Queensland about how social housing, government housing, can be made much more suitable for older women so that they can sort of age in place. And helping with planning regulations and things like that. So we've been working on a number of fronts. But yes, so pretty soon we are hoping that Sharing with Friends is going to be franchised.
I love it.
All around Australia.
I absolutely
We love to hear
love
from
it.
people.
Well, congratulations, Susan, to you and your organisation and your team. I know that you have an extensive committee pulling this together, and it's not an easy thing. So congratulations on that. We have had, again, lots of comments on Facebook saying how much they're loving this idea, a great initiative to maintain and support independence for older women. It is so much about that independence, isn't it? Because, you know, once we retire, that's another 25 years of our life where we should be living and thriving. So thank you.
Contributing to your community.
And contributing. You're so right. You're so right. It's, again, another reason why we're creating Broad Radio, because, you know, we are here to live our best lives and live loud and take up space. So
thank you for finding us.
Yeah, no, we love what you're doing. So congratulations, Susan. Thanks so much for joining us on Broad Radio.
Pleasure. Bye-bye, Lee.
See you later. And Bianca, that pretty much brings us to the end of our show today. It's been a delight to share it with you, as always.
Oh, as always, Jo. Now, I hope you're going to get your bike out and go for a ride this weekend.
I'm really scared of it.
Oh, maybe we need to go together.
Yeah, let's do that. I have no Lycra, although I do have one of those funny gel pad seats that I used to take to my spin classes because I found the seats too hard. So I've got a little. I've got somebody to cushion my tush. Yes.
You need the bike pads. Even though they look ridiculous, you need them.
Yes. Well, I'll see you next week for our amazing pop-up show for Gene House for Women's Health. We're going to be celebrating Women's Health Week next week. I'll see you on Thursday next week, Pete.
Can't wait.
All righty. Have a great week, everybody. And Broad Radio will be back next Tuesday at 9 a.m. We'll see you then.